right. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bashim Yahweh Shah, Bashim Kakadash. Second, I want to give double honors to Apostle Jim S. Rule of well, and peace, blessings, salutations to the hopefully elect, to those that are waiting for the return to the octave, to the octave, to the Akwav, that are waiting for the return of our Lord Yahweh Shah, which is the so-called black man from the tribe of Judah. This should Kwakaba from GMS Virginia. And as you can see, the title, Deuteronomy 30 and 7. I'm going to read up to 7. And I got an article to bring forth. My book, More Dirty Little Secrets, Dr. Claude Anderson. And it's an article about the first black bank. And I bring this out because we all see what's going on in California. But we know that at least did it. Same thing that happened in Hawaii with those Edomites. Because, a lot of people don't realize you have different branches of Edomites. You got the elites that rule the world. The top Edomites, which know that they're Edomites. Their lineage goes back to the nation of Edom. And how you say it. And they do their own people dirty. Because we know ultimately Esau, the elites don't have no regard for the rich of their own. And we all know how he gets down. If the rich is not down with the plan, meaning the top these top Edomites in this society, the ones that done labored for Hollywood, that basically been there and did that, benefited off the catastrophes of our people. Basically just had a leg to stand on. They wiped them out. They caused pain and agony on their own people so they can comply. Pretty much, you're being fucked over. You're an Edomite. Edomite should be pissed. And what you're seeing is them broadcasting and advocating and constantly turning and looping their catastrophe. Well, who gives a damn? Good for you. Because when you read the scriptures, a lot of these curses and these Edomites, which benefited from the destruction and the pain, the agony, how the way you burnt our towns, how the way you moved us, and we had to flee, Gad, how you made flee from Florida all the way to Oklahoma, the Trail of Tears. So, it's no remorse. These, who you should be feeling mad against is the elites. You have scripture talks about how the Lord is setting the Egyptians against the Egyptians, man. I'm pretty sure videos are going to come out left and right on how, they probably saw lasers. Because we know there's no way in the world a fire just do something like that and it just takes down houses, but you still have trees. It's like the brother Matadai was going to. The trees are still standing. The road isn't messed up. It's just section of houses that are thrust through. So that was a hit, same way as he did those houses in Maui, Hawaii. But I'm going to read this. It says the first black bank. So it says, today, so-called black Americans are often criticized for not being thrifty and not saving a greater portion of their income. And this is verse 34, goes into 35. In the late 1860s, nearly 5 million newly freed slaves made a Herculean effort to save money by banking their limited resources with the Freedmen Savings and Trust Company banks that were chartered by the United States Congress. And these banks, blacks were the only depositors, with 2/3 of the deposits to be invested in securities of the United States. The sources of these ex-slaves deposited were life savings, military wages, bounties, freedom, dues, church tithes, and donations from philanthropic organizations and benevolent societies. Over the course of 9 years, these ex-slaves deposited $57 million in 30 different 37 different branches of the Freedmen Banks located in major American cities such as New York, Washington, D.C., Philly, Atlanta, Nashville, Memphis, Charleston, and Savannah. Although the federal government created those banks specifically to provide financial support for former slaves, the government destined the banks to fail when they appointed racist white bank managers and gave them total and unsupervised control over the sex slaves' monies. So a lot of these Edomites that are living in these nice, well-to-do off areas, I'm talking about the nice, we all know it was a fancy place in Hollywood, whatever, Cali, that got their house burnt down. Best believe those Edomites had a lot to do with the destruction of so-called blacks, Latinos, Hispanics, Native Americans, West Indians, man. They gotta don't believe by far these things that just happen out of nowhere. Their hands are bloody, and we understand how the way this society runs. You have to be very wicked. You have to do a lot of basically underhand, undercut, and evil demonic shit to be in, pretty much to live in those type of communities and own those homes. Nobody just sits there and buy 300, 200, 100, 100, 200, $300, $300 million homes. Nobody just has that money just sitting around. See, that goes back to old slavery money. That goes back to old money that they're benefited by getting over on our people. You know, a lot of these Edomites have done a lot of dirt, and this is what the Lord has. The Lord has these Edomites really in a trick bag, because ultimately, um, I was saying it earlier. I forgot how I actually worded it, but you got these Edomites that's going to be judged in America, and Esau, the elites are judging them, but and ultimately, Slaki, you got the elites that the Lord is using on the left hand side to cause ruckus and havoc to set up the new world order, and Esau is sacrificing a lot of his own people and doing his own people dirty. Esau, at least they been did our people dirty. They took our nationality. They took our spirituality. They took everything from us. When you understand how this nigga operates and run, you see why this nigga had to really he moves the way he does. But ultimately, the Lord is preserving a great judgment for the elites as well. But it says without any protection for depositors in all of the freedom banks controlled by white boards of trustees, should anyone be shocked that all 37 branches in different cities were insolvent at exactly the same time? Within 10 years, the white bank Slaki, white bank managers invested Freeman Bank funds in speculative ventures for their own self-enrichment. See that? And fleeced the newly freed slaves of their limited properties and life savings. You see that? So, a lot of, they want to keep rerunning, the devastation, the tragedies, the pain. Oh, my house got burnt down. Oh, the so-called white tears. Oh, my whole riches, my whole investment, my stuff, it was all in that house. Well, hey, now you feel like a nigga, because look at how how you say your people did our people, moved us, burnt our towns, and there's many what is it, Black Journal, and it's another video channel that it come right on top of my head, that shows all the devastation that these Edomites have done to our people. So, Esau wants you to have your little so-called tears for them and feel sorry for them. Man, the hell with them. Yeah. Good. Your shit burnt down. You had to leave your car. You had to flee. It was no regard for the elderly, etc. Oh, well, who cares? Hey, you just had a Edomite woman here in Henrico Doctors in Richmond, Virginia, break little so-called black babies' bones, newborns, man. So, hey, the hell with these Edomites in California in those high rises, big top fancy houses being burnt to the ground, burnt to a crisp. But we ultimately know what's going on. Those elites did that, man. You know, and setting up those fucking crisis actors, etc. All that shit was a fucking gimmick, and it's a play. You know, Esau, like Esau says, he never lets a crisis go to waste, and he set that up. So it says, 5 years after the Civil War ended, newly enacted black codes were effectively turning the mood of the nation against recently freed black slaves. Remember, a lot of Edomites benefited from the downfall and the demise of our people. 1800s, um, like it says, the 1860s, all the way up, um, early 1800s, 1860s, all the way up, to what you see today. That's how these Edomites were able to how you say it, live in and be able to afford those fancy places that they dwell. So northern congressmen opposed and killed a bill to grant ex-slaves 40 acres and a mule and $100. Calls for states' rights were locking blacks into semi-slavery, called a peonage or sharecropping system. And following the U.S. Supreme Court slaughterhouse decision, which stipulated that the 13th, 14th, and 15th amendments to the Constitution were solely for blacks, so-called blacks. The executive, judiciary, and legislative branches entered into a conspiracy to end Civil War, Reconstruction, and its freedmen programs. Consistent with historical policies, the government's public explanation for this inhumane fleecing of ex-slaves' total resources was simply bank mismanagement, and economic downturn, just as so-called white society has never paid a penalty for the pain and suffering it has inflicted on so-called black people for over 500 years. Well, Howard has something else for that. He has something greatly in store. Let me get that real quick. Um, because you Edomites are going to pay. You know, don't forget about Obadiah. Um, Romans 12 and 19, dearly beloved, avenge not yourselves, but rather give place unto wrath. For it is written, vengeance is mine, I will repay, saith the Lord. So the Lord is going to bring these Edomites down, and he's going to start judging them. And he's going to start rousing things up and provoking and sending those perverse spirits down here in America. It's not looking too good to be a so-called white person right now, because the jig is up. See, a lot of things are coming out now on what you have done. See, Esau made the whole world feel pity and feel shame and really pretty much save his ass. It's like going into the story, the account about the rich man in Sirach, I think the 13th chapter or the 14th chapter, or maybe the 13th chapter. You know how this nigga have done all types of murder, rape, rob, and murder, spoiling, but then he can flip the narrate and make you feel sorry for him. Nah, that shit, that witchcraft is kind of fizzling out, man. Nobody is giving, nobody cares about your pain anymore, because look at all the pain you have inflicted on our people. Better yet, but I'm not even gonna say better yet, and the pain that you inflicted across the four corners on everything. So it says, The white manager, the so-called white managers of the freedom banks were never held accountable for conflict of interest, borrowing, fraudulent investment ventures, and outright theft. See that? When the freedom banks collapsed, black Americans, so-called black Americans, lost more than their life savings. Many so-called blacks lost their faith in banks, business development, and elected officials. To this present time, so-called black Americans have not pressed Congress to investigate, hold public hearings, or to reimburse the nearly 500,000 black depositors for the losses imposed on them. Maybe there is still time for justice to prevail on behalf of so-called black Americans. Well, you're seeing it, You're going to see it because it's you're about to see the how you say the payback and the curses fall on our enemies. Salaki. Deuteronomy 30:1 reads, "And it shall come to pass when all these things are come upon thee, the curses, etc., us fallen as a nation, the blessing and the curse which I have set before thee, and thou shalt call them to mind among all the nations, whether the Lord thy power have driven thee." So we're given a calling of what? Our power and our nationality. "And shall return unto the Lord thy power, and shall obey his voice according to all that I command thee this day, thou and thy children with all thine heart and with all thy soul." Verse 3, that then the Lord thy power will turn thy captivity, and that's what you're surely seeing, the shaking and awakening of the Hebrew Israelites, the 12 tribes, "and have compassion upon thee, and will return and gather thee from all the nations where the Lord thy power have scattered thee," because we have been scattered. We're not in our homeland. That's why everybody look at us as we're crazy, because at one point we were not known as being the Hebrew Israelites, so-called Negro, Latinos, Hispanics, Native Americans. We were basically called by our oppressor, the name that our oppressor, the so-called white man, these titles put on us. Verse 4, "If any of thy be driven out unto the outmost parts of heaven," and that's the west, "from thence will the Lord thy power gather thee, and from thence will he fetch thee." Verse 5, "And the Lord thy power will bring thee into the land which thy fathers possessed." And this is why you see that the shaking of the enmity, hatred, and war in the Middle East, because the Lord is ready to stir that place up ultimately until World War III. "And thou shalt possess it, he will do thee good, and multiply thee above thy fathers." Verse 6, "And the Lord thy power will circumcise thine heart, which he's doing through Yahushua, in the heart of thy seed, to love thy power, love the Lord thy power with all thine heart and with all thy soul, that thou mayest live." Going back to Book 4, because we're understanding what's really important, and we understand this is not our rest, and this is damn sure not our kingdom. And this is why a lot of these things were even able to fly, because ultimately the Lord had, judgment and prophecy had to play out. Verse 7, and I'm going to end it. "And the Lord thy power will put all these curses upon thy enemies and on them that hate thee, which persecuted thee." And we all know the reason why the so-called blacks, Latinos, and Hispanic and Native Americans are in these conditions is because of the hatred that the so-called white man enacted on us. Just like, for instance, now I watch Elder Yashwama video, hell of a lesson. Damn, I forgot the name of it. He was pretty much going into that's crazy, man. My mind. Damn, I wanted to land back off it a little bit. But pretty much I don't know, I lost my train of thought. Satan. Anyway, I'm gonna just read this again. "And the Lord thy power will put all these curses upon thine enemies and on them that hate thee, which persecuted thee." So nonetheless, the Lord is going to start, bringing out judgment on the nation of Edom. These so-called white people are going to start catching it by the hands of the elites, because the elites don't even give a damn about your average Edomite that has money or has riches or live in a good gated community. That new world order is going to be set up. Those 15-minute cities, etc., is going to be established. Their money again, man. Anytime you see that this Edomite don't give a damn of regard for his own people, how much more? Why would you think these Edomites will care about us? But I'm gonna go and wrap this thing up. Those rules edified. Shalom.